Hi, and welcome back to Football Picks here on TalkingSports.tv. I'm Marty York, along with handsome Howard Kamen in the studio, one of the finest prognosticators you'll ever find, especially when it comes to football. And Uncle Ben, who isn't too slouchy himself. Uncle Ben, of course, is one of the top handicappers in the world when it comes to NFL football and NCAA football. You can find his picks always on UncleBen'sFootball.com, and we're talking to Uncle Ben from his home office in San Diego, California. Gentlemen, I want to talk about one game last week that was absolutely remarkable. The Green Bay Packers, and one of the top stories this whole year has been the absence of Aaron Rodgers as the Packers quarterback. The team looked like it was going to collapse completely. They dredged up Matt Flynn, once a former backup quarterback of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. This guy bounced around the NFL. Buffalo didn't want him. Oakland didn't want him. Didn't make any sense to me, because I always thought Matt Flynn was the real deal. Just needed an opportunity. In any case, last week, after the Packers were down by more than 30 points at halftime, Flynn led them to a remarkable comeback in Dallas, which has created two scenarios now, very interesting scenarios in the NFL. One, that Green Bay may be for real even without Rodgers and may make the playoffs after all. And two, that Dallas, with Jason Garrett on the sidelines as coach, and with Tony Romo quarterbacking, maybe are in some trouble here, and there might be some changes in Dallas. With Jerry Jones, you never know. He's a meddling owner. He's the epitome of meddling owner. If you look up the word meddlesome in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of Jerry Jones. That's what he does. He meddles. That's his whole life. But let's talk about Green Bay before we get into Dallas and their troubles. Green Bay plays Pittsburgh this week. Aaron Rodgers will not be back at quarterback. It will be Matt Flynn. I like this guy. It's a 3-point game, probably favoring Green Bay. Do you lay the points with Green Bay? Do you think that they have a shot, Uncle Ben?
Well, it was obviously certainly a dramatic comeback, which changed the entire picture. It looked like Green Bay was dead in the water. The season was going to end when they went into the locker room last week down in Dallas, and obviously everybody knows what happened there. Huge comeback. I don't know. This game, the Pittsburgh Steelers seem to be playing a lot better. They started at 0-4, this team. Right now they're sitting, I believe, at 6-8, so they've won six of their last 10 ball games. Not too bad. They're running a 600 percentage there, playing a lot better. I still think the Green Bay Packers need this game. Matt Flynn's come through pretty well. I don't think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers playing this week or next week, to be honest with you. I don't think they're going to risk the future of their franchise quarterback for a couple of ball games this season when they're, even if they get to the playoffs. I don't think they're going to anywhere in the playoffs, this team. I really don't. And I don't think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers on the field again this year. This week, I don't really like this game. It's not very attractive to me. It's a very tight ball game. It's going to be chilly up there at the frozen tundra at Lambeau Field. Plays into Pittsburgh's hands. Pittsburgh likes that type of weather. They like to grind it out. I just see this being a very tight ball game, like I said, Marty, and it's really not one of the games that I, have any attraction to.
Right, I'm aware of that, but I thought we should give some time to Green Bay. Howard, I want to get your thoughts about this game against Pittsburgh, but more significantly, I want to get your thoughts about the Packers. Can they do anything playoff-wise? Can they make it, do you think, into the postseason without Aaron Rodgers? Is Flynn good in your mind?
Well, here's a team, with Aaron Rodgers, they looked like they were a team destined to go, all the way. Green Bay was flying. It was that Monday night game that he got injured against the Bears, and they definitely haven't been the same team since. Matt Flynn has shown that he can come out and do a half-decent job, but he's no Aaron Rodgers.
No, that's true.
And there's just no way of replacing a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So, I agree with Ben. Whether they make it to the playoffs or not, this is not a strong team right now. Even their defense isn't playing the way Green Bay defenses normally play. They beat a Dallas team last week that, since the beginning of the season, I said this Dallas team was garbage. I did not like the Dallas Cowboys from the beginning of the season, and what better way to prove it than last week? You're winning at halftime, you're at home, and you blow a game like that. I mean, shame on them.
All right, let's get into the Cowboys right now, and let's really get into them, because let's dissect them, sharpen the knife for a second, because the Cowboys were supposed to be a formidable team this season, and you're right. They haven't looked good at all. They're inconsistent. There are times where they look pretty strong, and then there are times where
their offenses look strong. Their offense at times has looked strong, but
then Tony Romo's is a lot like Stafford. He'll throw an interception at really inopportune times, and I know his numbers don't look bad, but he's, to me, an unreliable quarterback.
I think part of the blame would have to go on Romo, but the bigger blame would have to just be on they blew a game against Detroit. They were up 10 points in the last 3 minutes. The game last week, they played even at the Denver Broncos this year, put up a ton of points, and their defense couldn't come through. So,
after this game, gentlemen, this has been an uncomfortable week for Jerry Jones, the meddling owner. He has been asked a lot, what are you going to do about your coach, Jason Garrett? What are you going to do about Tony Romo, who you just gave mega millions to? What are you going to do about this team if it doesn't make the playoffs? Is Jason Garrett on the hot seat, Uncle Ben?
He has to be on the hot seat, although I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, that loss last week, they're sitting at 7-7. If they would have won last week, they'd be 8-6, and they actually would be in the driver's seat in the NFC East. They went from the 3rd seed if they would have won last week. Now they're the 10th seed. They dropped 7 places in seedings for the playoffs last week just because of that second half debacle down in Dallas. Jerry Jones, a couple of weeks ago, gave Jason Garrett the thumbs up. You know what that means, guys. Typically that means he's out of there.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to find a coach who wants to wants to work for Jerry Jones. People just don't want to work for Jerry Jones. And look at their defense. This is the problem with their team, not so much Tony Romo, and that's why they score so many points. Yeah. When your defense is ranked 32nd in the NFL and you're giving up 30 points a game or 32 points a game, your offense has to put the ball in the air and score points. Mm-hmm. And it dictates how your offense plays on how poorly your defense is. Clearly they gave up Rob Ryan on the defensive side of the ball, which was a big mistake for the Dallas Cowboys. I think last year they were 10th in the NFL in defense. I'm not sure why they gave up on Rob Ryan, because he went over to New Orleans and turned that defense around and made him into a much more competitive ball club this year. Although the last 2 weeks, their defenses looked a little suspect against Seattle and Carolina. No, they've had a nice game against Carolina, but 3 weeks ago against Seattle, they looked pretty poor, and they looked horrible last week in St. Louis. I think they have 30-some-odd points there. So defense is what dictates your offense, I think, and the fact that the Dallas Cowboys are the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL, that's why they're scoring so many points, because they have to score so many points in order to compete in the ball games they're in. This week, I don't like their chances, to be honest with you guys, if you want to touch on the Washington-Dallas game.
Sure.
They're going into Washington now. Basically, they have no chance, in my opinion, to make the playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're done. No coach in the NFL, by the way, is better at home in keeping a division foe down off a loss than Mike Shanahan, believe it or not. He's 8-0 against the spread in this role in his career. When playing a division foe off a loss. And you got to mix that in with Dallas's Tony Romo's record in December, which is horrible. 4-15 against the spread as a favorite in December is Tony Romo. I say stick a fork in the Dallas Cowboys. They're done after last week. I don't think they're going to rebound. And guys, can anyone remember, by the way, when the Dallas Cowboys won a big game on the road in December?
No.
Not too often.
And
I didn't think
who
so.
do you like in this game? Washington and
I like
Dallas.
Redskins, guys, +3. I'll take the Washington Redskins. They're at home +3. I think they're going to win the ball game.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is a rivalry game as well, a conference game. This is Washington's chance to put the nail in the coffin to the Dallas Cowboys. That's going to get them up for the game.
I don't believe it.
And they're, at home. Nobody hates the Dallas Cowboys more than the Washington Redskins fans. So it's going to be a pumped-up stadium. And I believe Washington will win that game as well.
Well, it's unanimous. I agree as well. And I just don't like the karma I'm seeing in Dallas. But aside from that, Washington looked darn good last week against Atlanta and almost pulled out a victory, except Shanahan went for a 2-pointer. And the reason I think that that Washington looked so good, they happen to have a new quarterback by the name of Cousins. I like this guy playing the way he's playing at 100% better than Griffin was playing all year at probably 60%. You agree with that?
I agree, and this is a big audition time for Kirk Cousins. You know, they might want to flip him in the offseason, get a draft pick. Certainly, they need more draft picks, the Washington Redskins. They need all kinds of help everywhere on the field. And Kirk Cousins has performed quite well. You know, he was very good at Michigan State in college. He's played a bunch of ball games for the Washington Redskins over the last couple of years. He looks pretty good. Okay, and they could have won that game easily last week. They opted for the 2 points, like you said, Marty, on the road. You know, I guess Mike Shanahan figured, hey, we got nothing to lose here, right? We're not going anywhere this season, so they took a shot. But I think at home this week, and like Howard said, this is their Super Bowl, right? They lost it's a revenge game. You know, they actually went down to Dallas and beat them up on the stat sheet in that game, although they did lose the ball game on the scoreboard. So I just think it's a good matchup for the Redskins. They'll be higher than a kite for this game, like Howard says. You know, they'll have no trouble getting up for their arch rival, the Dallas Cowboys. And I just like the Washington Redskins to win a ball game at home against their arch rival this week, the Dallas Cowboys, who are clearly in a downward spiral.
Okay, so there you are. Both of our esteemed prognosticators liking Washington plus the 3 points against Dallas. I mean, I like Cousins. I think he can throw them. I think he's got a terrific arm. I think this is a real quarterback. And I'm wondering what Washington is going to do with what is clearly now a quarterback controversy in the future. The question is, and this will be our final question before we take a break here, the question is, will Shanahan be back next season to make that decision, or is he gone?
I think Shanahan has seen his last season with the Washington Redskins. I mean, you know, it's he came here. This year it was a year that they had high expectations for Washington. Look at the season they had. I mean, the blame's got to come somewhere, and it's going to come down on the coach. And I think Shanahan will be released.
Ben?
I would agree with Howard wholeheartedly. You know, there's a lot of teams out there. Mike Shanahan's gone, in my opinion. There's no chance, in my opinion, he'll be coaching the Washington Redskins next season. You know, they were expecting huge things. A lot of teams this year, you know, interesting, just before we break, a lot of teams were expecting huge things this year, things that just didn't pan out. You know, the New York Giants, the Atlanta Falcons, the Houston Texans, the Washington Redskins. You know, these teams were all expected to make the playoffs, really. And they're not even, and the Dallas Cowboys can go into that category as far as I'm concerned as well. You know, these teams were all expecting to be in the postseason, and clearly none of them will be.
And if you get to coach Washington, I mean, what a plum job that is, because you're going to have two young quarterbacks. That's a nice problem to have. I mean, both of them, I think, have potential to be superstars in the NFL. I mean, Griffin was there already last year. And if he's healthy next year, I can see him being a superstar in the future. I mean, one of those guys.
Again, like he's kind of like Jerry Jones, you know. Daniel Schneider,
yeah, that's true,
hired Steve Spurrier a bunch of years back. He thought that was going to be the answer. Spurrier lasted, like 2 seasons? I'm not sure who they had in the middle there after Spurrier. Then they brought in Shanahan. Shanahan won 2 Super Bowls in Denver. They thought he was going to be the answer. You know, it's kind of like these two teams, Dallas and Washington, with their owners, have a little bit of a similar situation. Both have high-paid quarterbacks that aren't delivering. You know, it's just interesting, guys. That's all. It's just an interesting rivalry, and should be a good game this Sunday. I do like the Redskins.
Ditto. All right, we're going to take a break. When we return, folks, this is what you wait for. You get to hear the top picks for this week from both Uncle Ben and Handsome Howard. Stay tuned, and we'll see you in a minute.